And we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of Comic Shop Talk Live of the year. Brought to you by Black Hat Comics and Rock and Milpitas, your one-stop shop for all things superhero. Shop online at black-cat-comics.com. We're keeping you connected to the comic book community. I'm Mark.
I'm Francie.
And we've got a fun show for you today. It's an interactive program, so feel free to throw us your questions, comments, concerns, and we will address those surreptitiously. He said, not knowing what that word means. And yes, so going to talk a lot. Going back to the future this week. DC launched their Future State slate of books, the Future State event. So we got a little of that to talk about. We always like to start the show with some comic shop news. Comic shop news. Bit of sad news today. We lost Steve Lytle, artist Steve Lytle, known for his 1980s work on Legion of Superheroes. If you're 100 years old like me and you loved comics back in the day, you know Steve Lytle very well. I'm sure if you don't know the name and you saw the covers, you would know those covers. They're super classic. So
rest in peace.
Yes, Mr. Lytle, we appreciate your work. Thank you for your dedication to the 4-color funny books. You can read more about Steve Lytle and his great work, dccomics.com, his wiki page, all that good stuff. And I encourage you to do so, because when these things happen, we all note the important books, and we all note the books that they remember. When you take a look at these folks' body of work, you get turned on to all kinds of things that you didn't know they did. Maybe you didn't know they existed, and that's always fun. Yeah. So I encourage you to do that. In lighter news, we're all getting excited about WandaVision. I never know dates because it's all, it starts when it starts. But I think it's next week, along with the whole plethora of Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars stuff that's going to be rolling out. So I'm super excited about that. I'm sure we'll be talking about that in the weeks to come.
We need things to look forward to and to be excited about.
Yes.
This year.
Yes, we do. The year's off to a rocky start. So we got to get this thing going and get it
9 days in.
Do you have any comic shop news? Anything big going on?
Let's see. Well, I know the Berserker comic's coming out shortly. So that big Keanu Reeves book that everyone's really excited about. So that's coming out soonish. And then our Black Cat Chronicles book is well on its way. We've got a lot of pages that we got from the artist that are gorgeous. So I'll be posting an update on our Kickstarter page about that either today or tomorrow to show off some of the work that's been going on behind the scenes. So that's on schedule to be ready to get into your hot little hands in March. So excited for that.
Yeah, moving and shaking on our Black Cat publishing project. That's tons of fun. For those of you who haven't already prepaid purchased your copy, you can go to black-cat-publishing.com and acquire your pre-order. So the minute it hits the stands, you've got one in your hands. Like that cool rhyme?
Yeah, that's good.
So moving on to the first big event of 2020, the technically, I guess, the first week of new comics. Both weeks ran late. The last week of last year and the first week of this year. So this is the second batch for us, but the first week of new comics. And I guess it's all about Future State, which is really cool.
Yeah, I am, as I'm sure you guys are too, just distracted, overwhelmed, a little depressed, a little fearful, a little anxious about how this year's gotten off to a very rocky start. And so I think now more than ever, we need some escape, and we need to embody the characteristics of our favorite characters. So I don't have anything to say other than thank God for comics right now, because boy, we need them.
That's very true. As they have always been. Comics are a great source of escapism, but you make a good point that it's also a good source of motivation and inspiration. And it's fun to read comics to get away from everything that might be going on in the big picture and the small picture in your life. But it's also important, I think, to take little kernels of these things and try and put them into your day-to-day life so we can all be a little nicer, have the world run a little bit smoother. And, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No place, frankly, to start than with the DC characters, with Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. As much as I'm a big Marvel guy and can go on and on about Captain America all day and all night.
I was going to mention a Captain America
thing. I think Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, especially future state versions, the idea that these concepts will continue deep into the future is encouraging.
It feels like, I think it was an Endgame where Cap has just like been fighting for 18 weeks straight. And he's just like, all right. And he like picks up his shield and like goes out to battle again. Like that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's like, all right, what's next? What's next, world?
Yeah.
What else you got?
My friend Sean and I talk about that scene where he just stand there, tightens the shield, takes a deep breath, like, all right, 2021. What do you got? So that's where we're at. So it's a good time for a bit of an event. So for those of you who may not know, all of your regular DC titles are on a bit of a hiatus. This future state stuff is running every week through the next like 6 to 8 weeks through the end of February. So that's going to be a lot of what we're talking about. I said in the newsletter, encourage you folks, try something. If you're a DC person, don't wait 2 months for your other titles to come back. Check out something from this future state thing. If you're a Marvel person, indie person, look, it's new characters, new creators, new writers, new artists. It's a lot of fun. So I always encourage folks to take an opportunity to try something new. Again, I know these big events can be a little unruly. People don't want to commit. You're like, oh man, that sounds lame. I get all that. But you know, again, this day and age, be a little more optimistic. Give yourself an opportunity to have some fun. And again, all kinds of new books, and so new writers, new artists, new things to turn yourself onto, and that's always fun. Since she's on the phone, I'll go ahead and get started with my favorite of the bunch, which was Superman of Metropolis. Of course, if you've ever seen any of my videos, if you've ever been in the store, you know that I'm a big Superman guy. So of course, this was where I was going to start. And I was really jazzed. I was really excited about this, and I thought it totally delivered. Great stories, great art. A little bit of what I've been saying about Marvel books in the way that it gives you kind of everything you want and expect, but also gives you something new, fun, cool, different, and exciting. It's a Superman book, so you get Superman, you get Metropolis, and you get a classic Superman villain, at least a new version of a classic Superman villain. But it's all of those things presented in a way that you haven't really seen before, in a way that will establish things going forward. And so that's tons of fun. And let me see if I can show you a non-spoilerific art page.
DC, what are you doing? DC, what the heck are you doing?
Somewhat non-spoilerific art pages. Pretty good stuff.
DC.
So, like I say, that was my place to start. It was a fun Superman book. Again, it's a little bit of what you know and love about Superman presented in a way that is new, fun, and exciting. So a great place to start with some of these things.
I gotta say, the future state stuff is hit and miss, just like every new thing that gets launched. Some stories are going to wow you, some aren't. Some art's going to wow you, some isn't. And so I'm going to show you, all the different art styles, so you can kind of get a sense of what it looks like before you pull the trigger on it. The Swamp Thing art, it's Mike Perkins, so it's amazing. The story leaves a little bit to be desired, but the art is got that Sandman kind of feel. It's got that fantasy feel. It's everything you want in Swamp Thing art. It's dark, it's shadowy, it's broody, it's all of those things. Where I think it falls a little flat for me as a long time. I've got the first like 10 issues of Swamp Thing. Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson's characters. One of the key things about Swamp Thing for me is he's this Frankenstein-like character. Part of his tragedy is that he is the only one of his kind and he's alone, right? He, of course, talks to the trees and is part of the earth and all that, but he is a lone, creature, monster, doomed to live all eternity by himself. That's the whole point of Swamp Thing. So in Future State, he's got like a whole family that he's created of Swamp Thing like kids. And it's a neat idea, it's a nice story, but it's like putting a gun in the hands of Batman. It doesn't fit for me. And so I'm like, have you ever read Swamp Thing? The writer, no diss, but there's a key element. It's like Martian Manhunter. He's the last of his kind, and that's why he's such a great tragic character, right? There's only him, and there's nobody else left. Well, when you give Swamp Thing a family, it loses its juice. So great art, interesting story, but it's not my Swamp Thing, I have to say. There you go.
There you go.
Sorry.
Well, like you say, these sorts of things are always a bit of a hit and miss, give and take, and totally subjective. Again, I always encourage folks to check out those first issues. Try the whole swath of things. You don't have to keep reading everything, but you aren't going to know if you like it or not unless you check it out. Just because I like it doesn't mean you'll like it. Just because I hate it doesn't mean you won't love it. And so first issues are fun that way. I remember going back to the beginning of New 52. I did the same thing.
Yeah.
I was like, look, it's a whole new slate of things.
Tons of stuff.
It's a whole new game. Just try it. It's okay to not like stuff, but at least give it a shot. So, give it. And then the same thing goes for the creators. They are in the same boat. I've talked about this as long as I've had the store, is that creators and editors, you have to rock the boat sometimes. You have to try something new sometimes. This whole thing is about trying something new, and things are going to work, things are not going to work, but you should try something new with the established characters. Like, changing the fundamental nature of the characters means that it's a different character. True. In my honest opinion. Well, like I say, otherwise, then it's just month after month of the same thing, and people can, get a little leery of that. So what is this? You got to explain this now. Okay, I'm confused. I'm not sure I can explain this. So this is the big gun of the week. It's not specifically a Future State book. It's called Generations Shattered. I know it's backwards. Yes, Generations Shattered. For those of you who can't read backwards, it's the big $10 meaty graphic novel sort of thing. And wow, what a book. So much going on here. So what does this have to do with Future State? I don't know entirely, except the idea is, how can I even explain it? What do you guys think? Have you read it yet? Everybody read it? So this establishes the existence of Future State, I guess, is the best way to explain it. Is it like in between Dark Knight Metal 7 and Future State stuff? I guess so. Like a bumper? I guess so. Not exactly. I think it's supposed to be the first issue after Dark Knight Metal 7, I guess is the best way to say it. This doesn't necessarily tie into Future State, but Dark Knight 7 establishes a bunch of things without spoiling anything, I guess. And this is possible because of what happens in Dark Knight 7. Okay, so like one of the possible offshoots. If that makes any sense, then that's the best way I can explain it. It does. So what is it? It is a gathering of DC heroes from all across the timeline. It presumes that there is only one timeline, and that that's Golden Age Batman. You can always tell because he's got his cool little purple gloves. And Booster Gold is in every time story, and Commandy is of course from the Great Disaster Kirby stuff. Original Sinestro Green Lantern. So somebody is putting together a team of DC heroes from across all the timelines. I guess is the easiest way to explain it. Who and why is something you'll have to pick up the book and find out for yourself, but that's what's going on. Let's see some art. That's where it gets tricky, because there's like 20 different artists in this book. Oh. And I would be okay with that, except that one of them is Ivan Reis, which makes all the rest of them, no offense to anybody else working on this book, but come on, man, Ivan Reis is one of the best artists in comics. So when you're looking at a couple of Ivan Reis pages and then you turn the page,
you're like,
I don't care who that next person is, unless it's John Byrne, you're going to be like, wow, that's a little jarring. So I would admit that the combination of artists, while thematic to the book, because every time you go to a different era, there's a different artist.
oh, that's
And
smart.
that's cool. That's fun. And that's cool. But it's a little jarring. I'm not saying I didn't like a lot of the artists. I'm just saying it's a little jarring to be like looking at Ivan Reis and then looking at somebody else. But anywho, so there's almost no page you can show that doesn't have something going on.
Oh, that's good.
There's a good one. So here's some of that cool. And you can tell by that big
cool
splash page that this is one of those every era mashup kind of things. And again, there's a lot going on in this book, and it asks you, the reader, to accept a lot of things like comics often does. So if you're one of those people that tells me they don't read Justice League because there's too much going on, this might not be the book for you. If you're one of those people that doesn't like team books because there's always too much going on, this might not be the book for you. But if you're somebody like me who's just happy to be along for the ride and likes books with time travel and washing machines, I don't know, then you know, it's really fun. Dan Jurgens, let me just say, to put the trust value in it and to pull it all together, yes, there's way too much going on in this book, but it's written by Dan Jurgens, so you can trust that when you get to the end, it will have made sense.
Free for all.
But there's a lot of establishment going on. There's a lot of things as you read the book. Like I say, there's a lot going on. They're asking you to just come along for the ride, but they're also telling you that these things exist and that these things can happen in the new DC universe. And it's important to know.
What I've found in reading some of these is that I haven't caught up on my Dark Knight Metal. So it feels like you've got to finish, not necessarily, but if you really want to get a handle of what the heck's going on, you got to finish Dark Knight Metal 1 through 7. 7 just came out this week. And then this stuff makes a little bit more sense, because it's like, now after the aftermath of all of that, who are the players, who's left, what does their world look like? And that's kind of what the Wonder Woman issue is, Joelle Jones. So it's this other world. I really liked it, actually. That the art's great. It's this kind of fantasy, what can I show you? This fantasy killing beasts kind of things, Pegasus type stuff. And then it's like normal computers, like she's in an airport. So there's all kinds of weird, crazy stuff going on, but very fantastical. There's some humor in it. I like the art. You know, I'm not super like, oh my God, it's the best thing ever, you have to read it. But you're like, yeah, I'll pick up number 2 and see if it, continues to tickle my fancy. But it's an interesting read, but I do feel a little bit lost since I didn't finish the Dark Knight Metal 7 just yet.
Which is a couple of really important points. And I want to pause here and note a couple of things, particularly to you DC fans. Obviously, we're very heavy in the DC section right now. Number one, whether you're going to get into Future State or not, whether you're going to have anything to do with this, now is a great time, like she said, to finish up all your DC reading. Catch up on all your DC stuff for a number of reasons.
That is true.
One, all of your arcs are ending, and a lot of your books are ending. Bendis's run on the super books are over, with the exception of the Bat titles. And I could be wrong here, but I'm gonna say in general, with the exception of Tinian on Batman, everything else is ending or has ended and is restarting post Future State. Not necessarily with a new number 1, but when your next issue of Justice League will not be Endless Winter, it'll be a whole new thing with a whole new team. Your next issue of Superman will be a whole new thing with a whole new creative team. Green Lantern is ending, etc., etc., etc. So now is a great time to catch up on all your DC stuff. Everything wraps up, everything, so you can start fresh. So whether or not you're going to get into your future state stuff, you can decide at this point what you're happy with, what you're going to keep going with, all these kind of things. Which is my first caveat to that, getting back to future state, some other things. Like me with Superman, I always encourage folks to give the new team an issue or two. If you're reading a book, whatever book it might be, in my case, let's say Bendis's Superman stuff. I love Bendis's Superman stuff. And a lot of people always tell me, okay, you can take it off my subscription when Bendis is over. I totally get that. But give the new guys an issue or two. Pick up Justice League number 59 and see if you like the new team, see if you like the new creative team. If you don't, great, but you won't know unless you check it out. Same thing with all this future state stuff. Again, you're not going to like everything, but you don't know unless you read some of the first issues. Don't just take my word for it. Don't take her word for it. Check it out for yourself. And if you don't like the first issue, hey, great, then don't pick up the next ones. But again, in a new year, in these crazy times, it's fun to try something new, try something different. Don't just, stop for stopping's sake. Give those new creative teams on your favorite titles a little chance.
I have not yet read Future State Harley Quinn, but the art's really cool. It's very kind of manga cartoon-like. So if you like the sci-fi Blade Runner type stuff, this would be, I think, right up your alley without giving too much away.
I do like sci-fi Blade Runner type stuff.
I thought you might, yeah. So, but it looks cool. Looks cool. We haven't had a lot of chance to read yet because we just got our books like yesterday. So
yeah,
we're a little
true.
behind. The Batman one, there's looks like there's 2, maybe 3 different stories in here. And the art's a little all over the place. The first story, the art just didn't do it for me. The second story, the art's amazing. There's a big Katana story in there. Who doesn't love Katana? And the art's a little bit more my style on the second one, but
that's some good stuff.
But let's see, what can I share with you? So here's the first story, some of the art for the first story. It's a little bit more loose. It's less detailed. It's kind of more like a cartoon, but the latter story has a lot more of what we'd expect in a Batman book. A lot more detail. Let's see, what can I show you? Like this, something like this. So you get a sense of the flavor of what it looks like, the 2 different stories that are in here. But we shall see.
You make me need to jump back to the Superman thing because I forgot to mention the backup stories. There are 2 other backup stories in this, and one of them is I got to turn the page so you don't see the end of the Superman one. It's a new Mr. Miracle, which is super fun.
Is it written by Tom King?
No. I love Mr. Miracle. Always have, always will. So again, it's cool to see you're not just getting a new version of Superman, you're getting a new version of Mr. Miracle and a new version of the Guardian. And most of you probably have never read a comic in your life with the Guardian. Do you even know who that guy is? No. Some of you old schoolers are like, of course I do, Kazi, but some of you new guys might not know the Guardian. So super cool. Again, fun to be turned on to new versions of characters you may not have checked out before. Looks like a heavy metal style.
So what are you guys reading? What's top of your stack this week? What have you gotten to? What do you like? What are you not liking? What are you excited for?
If you haven't got your stuff this week, maybe something from last week, since last week ran a little late too. We're sort of getting 2 weeks in one this week.
Love anything Neil Gaiman. Anything. Yes, here's my money. Here, take it. Last week's Norse Mythology issue number 4. So for those of you that don't know or are a little bit late to the game, about a year ago, Neil Gaiman kind of rewrote some of the Norse mythology mythos in a book called Norse Mythology. And so recently they started to adapt it for comic form. P.K. Russell, they had some really great artists that are totally escaping me right now.
David Mack?
David Mack did the covers, yeah, but there's some others that did the interior art that was just amazing. So they're just kind of taking the book that he did and turning it into graphic form, and it's gorgeous. It's very kind of Stardust-like, if you like Stardust. Beautifully done, great colors, kind of like the storyteller books too. So if you like mythology and you like Neil Gaiman, you should absolutely be picking up Norse mythology. So they're on just the 4th issue right now. I think we have most, if not all, on the online store. I can't remember.
We should be. I've been restocking them pretty good.
All but maybe issue 2, I think. Good stuff.
Okay. I want to move on to a couple of Marvel things. And I got to talk about this guy, Amazing Spider-Man number 56.
Look at that.
Amazing 56.
And 55 sold out like that.
5 sold out. It's been selling. Okay, so if you've been watching the last few weeks, you've heard me say this before, but I
haven't been on in the last few weeks.
Well, then they haven't heard me say this in over a week.
That's right. A long time.
I have to talk about what's going on in Amazing Spider-Man and in a broader sense, what's going on in a lot of Marvel books like Iron Man and like Thor. This book is so awesome and so much fun. It's honestly, as comics likes to be, it's sort of the opposite of what we've been saying in a lot of about future state stuff, because they're not going for something new, fun, exciting. I'll get to that in just a second. It is, I almost don't know how to explain it. It is everything you know and love and expect from Spider-Man, but it happens in a world where everything you know about Spider-Man has happened. What do I mean by that? Here on the cover, you see Norman Osborn and the Kingpin. You don't get any more old school than Norman Osborn and the Kingpin. Those are the 2 most classic Spider-Man villains there are. And we've all read 100,000 comics with these guys. Okay, so how can you give me something new with these guys? Well, now the stories are sort of a culmination of all of those other stories. These 2 guys have known each other a long time. They've been bad guys for a long time. They've been scheming, manipulating, and hating Spider-Man for a long time. And so things have rippled out as a result of that. These guys have had children who are messed up. They have legions and legions of victims who want revenge. And so you're seeing new stories that come from the stories that have happened before, and it isn't a retelling of those things. It's an acknowledgement of those things, and you see repercussions of what has happened. You see what happens because Norman Osborn's been such a jerk for all these years. Things come back to haunt him because Peter is Peter Parker and is who he is. The things that have fallen through the cracks are coming back to haunt him. And so if you're a new reader, it's fun because you feel the history, you feel the tension, but you don't have to know everything that's gone on to know that these guys have a history. But if you're an old school reader like me, you remember all those times, and they don't, without specifically referencing things, they sort of harken back to issues and storylines that you remember.
Nice.
And that's really, really fun. You're reading the Peter Parker. This isn't a Peter Parker that is trying to that doesn't have a history. This is I don't know quite what I'm trying to say. They're not selling you a new first issue. Yeah. They're not introducing you to Peter Parker. They're not introducing you to Norman Osborn.
The core of it.
They're bringing you into the middle of this long story. And that's really fun. And I say, because it's sort of a theme, conscious or not, it's something that's going on in Iron Man and in Thor and in a lot of Marvel books. And I'm having a lot of fun sort of revisiting classic characters with a kind of, some fresh air. So Black Manta is asking, I don't get why 55 is so hot besides the cover.
That cover was cool.
The cover is awesome. And let's face it, most of the time, especially with Amazing Spider-Man, with Batman, with the top titles, that's really all it takes for a book to sell out, is a really great cover on a really top title will sell out the book. I will also say, without spoiling anything, that the last page of 55 blows up in your hand. And so if you're following the series, 55 will have ramifications and will be important going forward. So it's one of those. I'm glad you asked that, actually, because that will slightly segue me into Star Wars High Republic for this week. There are 1,000 reasons why a book gets hot, a book sells out, and a book becomes $50 5 minutes after it comes out. Some of those reasons are perfectly logical. Some of those reasons don't make any sense at all. But it brings up a couple of things that I always like to tell folks. Number one, the only books that become worth anything are books people want to read, books the end buyer, the end user will want to read. So if you collect books you like to read, you will by default end up with those valuable books without having to look for them. What am I talking about? I have guys in these boxes back here. They have all Star Wars and gals, but I don't think I have any all Star Wars gals. I have folks who have all Star Wars on their list because they love Star Wars. And they get every Star Wars book that comes in, and most of them are neither here nor there. They're just books that these folks want to read, so they get them. But these folks also have Darth Vader #1, this week's Star Wars High Republic #1 that everybody's seemingly paying $20 for. Let me think of another. Dr. Aphra. They have Darth Vader #2, the first appearance of Dr. Aphra. See, there you go. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So if you stay in your lane, those books will come to you at cover price. I bought the first appearance of Bane for cover price because I like bad guys. A year later, he broke Batman's back, and that book went through the roof. And everybody was scrambling to buy that book for $50. But I paid cover price because I like bad guys. So if you stick to what you like to read, you will get those books. Secondly, the flip side to that, don't buy books just because they're hot. If you don't know or care anything about Star Wars, you don't need a High Republic. I don't care what it's going for. You can. I don't recommend chasing books after the fact. That's just because, getting back to this, because anything can make that book hot. High Republic is the first appearance of young Yoda. That's a great reason for a book to be collectible and for a book to be chased. A great cover, a first appearance, art by Alex Ross. Whatever you want to talk about, there's 1,000 great reasons for a book to become valuable. But if it's But don't buy it for those other reasons. Don't buy a book just because the internet tells you to, because you'll spend $20 for a book and then a week later nobody wants that book anymore. So I'm not quite sure what my tangent was, but buy books you like to read is that tangent. Check books out, and then you'll end up with those books by default.
And it's a mystery to us sometimes which books like sell out and go crazy on the internet. Sometimes it's people writing articles about it, of what's to come. You know, there might be a tidbit in here, or a new character, or a clue into something moving forward. But honestly, you know, a lot of that, it's speculation. It just kind of ratchets it up the market. And, you know, I wouldn't pay $50 for something that just came out yesterday. That's ridiculous. And I wouldn't go to a store unless it's like a variant cover, right? I wouldn't go to a store and buy something that's cover price that day that they're selling for $50. I'd find another store. So, you know, be smart about, you know, how you spend your money. Like Kazi was saying, buy it because you want it for yourself, not because you think you can turn a buck on it. Because trust me, you're not going to make any money long-term doing stuff like that.
Because the 90s taught us that's just not a long-term game. And I always say, everybody buys comics for different reasons. Everybody collects comics for different reasons. And I totally support all of those things. I do the speculator thing. Everybody does it. Because you see a book and you're like, oh, that's cool. I want it. But again, even if you're spending that money, buy it because you want it, not because the internet tells you want it. That's two very, very different things. Okay, enough said.
We got some questions here. Emo, do you both think that DC and Marvel are getting themselves better organized for the year with new titles and old, besides books being late. The late thing was just the holidays and the print term thing, so that's not anything to be, that's normal this time of year.
Yeah, winter stuff.
We've been doing this a long time now. It'll be coming up on 19 years this August, and we've seen a lot of stops and starts with both DC and Marvel. I can only speak to the DC stuff because I'm really kind of a DC gal. But when we first started, Hush had just come out with Batman, and we had, of course, a New 52, and we had Rebirth, and we had this, and we had that. Maybe it's because of the pandemic. Maybe it's because we're closed. I don't know. Future State, there's not that same excitement. There's not that same, I don't feel that energy. I don't feel people like adding it to their lists real quick. I don't, because we can't talk about it really in person except on Saturday. So I don't really know, but it doesn't feel like the same kind of excitement as previous launches did. Again, I don't know why. And I'm, looking at the books, and when New 52 came out, every single book was stellar. Like they were pulling no punches, sparing no expense, top writers, top artists. It was some of the best stuff still to this day that I've ever read. The first year of New 52. So my standards are high. And so when the Future State stuff came, and this is supposed to be the launch into the new DCU, my same perspective was, all right, New 52. I'm gonna get some thrills. I'm gonna get some excitement. I'm gonna get some, introduced to new people, new artists, and I'm just gonna be, in. DC's gonna suck me back in deeper than I already have been. I didn't feel that. Like I said with Swamp Thing, I feel like, I don't know if DC and Marvel are losing talent, if they're losing legacy, when they laid off all of the old folk like myself and older who've been around for decades, who understand these characters, who understand this market, who understand what it means to put out periodical superhero comics. I feel like the kids have been running the institution. I feel like, oh, Swamp Thing, yeah, he's this guy that's in the green and he knows all thing Mother Earth. Let's just give random guy who hasn't written much that title. Wonder Woman. Oh yeah, let's just find some female who's written a couple of young, graphic artists, young adult books, and let her write Wonder Woman, even though she hasn't read it before in her life. Like, what is happening, DC? So I have yet to be excited, impressed, looking forward to DC this year. So far, I'm like, all right. And what about Marvel?
Well, I think on a broad sense, to answer your question, it would be yes. I think there is definitely a motivation to organize. I almost want to say downsize, but I don't think that's quite the term. But I think organization, your question was, are they better organized? Well, first of all, DC almost has to be, because they laid off a third of their people. So I think they're definitely trying to streamline.
It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be better organized.
True, but I think that's their attempt. I think they're making an attempt to streamline things, to organize things. Marvel, I don't think, is doing anything any different. I think since when the pandemic hit, when the first lockdown hit, they put everybody on hold. When they started everything up again, they dropped a few titles. But nothing, frankly, of any consequence. They've pitched a bunch of new X-Men books that are coming.
They finished the X of Swords. That you've been liking the King in Black
stuff is cool. Yeah, they don't have, and it's funny because I'm wondering if this has something to do with the Bendis leaving. They don't have like a big event thing that's coming, but as I've been saying, like with Amazing and whatever, they definitely seem to be putting more emphasis into the individuality of each title as opposed to building a universe. You see very much that the Avengers is the Avengers and Spider-Man is Spider-Man, and well, the X books is the X books, and so I think they're very much committing to to selling each title on its own merit. And I think that's part of why they dropped a lot of their fringe books. And so, like you say, is that organization? I don't know, but I think they're definitely they have a concept and they're rolling with it.
An organization, I think, really comes down to editors. You know, the editors understand the larger universe. They understand that they need to have certain, you know, their artists and their writers, you know, fit in this timeline, in this general larger picture that they're putting together. That all the little pieces sync together. Even though, you know, the Avengers and the Spider-Man books are all independent, they've got the, you know, King in Black. There's Valkyries. There's Marauders. There's, I think, Captain America. So like that's stretching across the entire MCU. That's not sticking to one area. It's not like just an X-Men crossover. It's a whole MCU crossover.
That's true. Yeah, there's certainly a lot going on, and yes, Black Manta Thor is a great example of what I'm talking about. Where, well, I can't exactly say it's back to basics because they brought in Galactus and all kinds of things, but it's Thor, and it's everything you know. They haven't changed Thor a bit. They're just giving you, you know, things that Thor should be doing, which is fighting the biggest villains, doing those sort of galaxy shaking things. And again, it's not crossing over into stuff. It's not part of any event. It's just Thor, and it's selling like crazy, which I haven't been able to say about Thor for a long time.
So Emo's point about Image and Dark Horse seems to be stronger in the sense of concentrating on their comic format and their storytelling. Well, you know, Emo, I think we're going to see that a lot with not just Image and Dark Horse, but AWA, Aftershock, Boom Studios, because all of that talent that's been leaving the big two, where are they going to go? Those are the first places. But, you know, Image has always been about story and artist kind of freedom. It's kind of like the Netflix of comics. Like, here's your platform. We'll give you the infrastructure. Go be artists, without the same kind of guide rails and guardrails that the big two have to put on because they've got specific characters that people are writing. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of great books coming out of the non-DC Marvel books this year, hopefully for years to come.
I think Image is 5 minutes away from being the second big publisher. And this isn't really a diss on DC, but as I see the math going with the layouts and everything that DC has gone through, and they're, you know, I mean to discount that, but as far as per unit sales, Marvel always wins this thing. Marvel is always, yes, that's just the way it is. Marvel is Marvel's 55-60% of the
but
industry.
in our shop, DC sells better than Marvel.
So anyway,
I do the math. I know. I've got the numbers.
Okay. I do the ordering. Anywho, so Marvel would be tough to unseat. But when I see books like Crossover, when I see the books that when Image hits, they hit huge. And they don't lose that readership. When Saga comes back, it will be huge. And I mean, they're selling color reprints of Walking Dead. The color reprints of Walking Dead are outselling most books I carry. And so, like I say, it would seem to me that long term, the business model of Image Comics will keep it going and will allow it to grow. That's just my feeling. I really think that the future of comics, again, we talk about character, you know, Batman isn't going anywhere, but the future of comic books is at Image.
And I would say, like, the new guys, the AWAs, again, the Aftershocks, they're just like kicking butt and taking names. Their stuff is so good.
Well, and I think that's another thing. As far as down the road, let's say 20 years from now, the big two it will be very easy for them to go digital, and it will be very easy for them. They'll have their own platform and they'll have their own thing. DC, Marvel already do. But for those of us who love comics, and for periodical paper comics, and for the people that like drawing and producing those periodical paper comics, when the big two kind of get out of the way and go digital, then yes, you'll see Image and Aftershock and all these guys, all the print runs and all the sales will go up.
Yes.
Because those of us that love comics will want to keep reading them.
So Daniel's been reading Daredevil. He's liking it. It's good, solid reading. And he was able to get that Daredevil Elektra issue because he's been getting it on his subscription. So that's good. And I've been singing Image's praises since you started Department of Truth. Isn't that a good book? Department of Truth. That is a good book, dude.
Yeah, and that's kind of exactly what we're both talking about. As the top talent starts doing these creator-owned things, you're going to see more and more of that.
Yes. Can you imagine if J. Jonah Jameson was a mutant the entire time? Nice. I'm not reading SpiderMan, so I'll leave that with you. Is that a spoiler?
Not exactly.
Oops, sorry.
Companies seem to be able to compete. Yes and no. They do seem to compete. They are able to compete, but I go back to always maintaining that without them they don't really have a venue. The small companies do need Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
For the most part, and there's obviously a huge exception to this, but generally speaking, people buy all these other books when they show up to buy Batman or Spider-Man or whatever have you.
And Black Manta. Do you think Disney will eventually try to buy DC? No, because I mean DC's now AT&T and Warner Brothers, and it's all wrapped up in that. They're not going to let go of that property. So I think we're going to see DC under AT&T for forever. I
don't think DC is an actual thing anymore. I think Batman is the thing. I think the licensing for the characters is the thing. I don't see them buying and selling DC comics.
How does it when you start? How does it feel when you start a really well-written series only for it to end abruptly? I never got over Image never giving a second story arc to gunning for hits. Yeah, that's the risks that you take when you do some of the smaller press stuff. Is it gonna finish? But even the big two, there are some books that they just like at Marvel, I think just like stop some stuff without finishing, right?
It has happened. I remember, I'll never forget getting an email that said Thanos number 13 was your last issue. I'm like, well, but the story's not over. Ghost Rider fans of the 90s will be able to tell you about that because the book got canceled right before the last issue. And so Ghost Rider fans never knew how the big climax ended.
That's torturous.
So, Daniel, that's a huge thing. So the question is for the folks, how do you feel when you're loving a book and then it ends?
Well, not when it ends,
ends abruptly or perhaps prematurely. Yes. Or you don't get, like with a lot of creator-owned things, you get to the end, and that's it. And there is no volume 2, and that's just the end of it. So here's something as a very old man in comics I learned a long, long time ago. Love the one you're reading. Whatever it is you love about comics, whatever it is, your character, your artist, your whoever it is, the book in your hand, when you're reading that book in your hand and you're loving that book, love it. Love it with all your heart. Love it like a warm puppy because you might not ever see that moment again. And that's just the way it is. My personal example to this, Daniel, isn't exactly the same thing, isn't exactly analogous, but I already said John Byrne, but here I'll say it again. For me, it's the what I call, God bless you, I don't mean this in any kind of bad way, it's the Bill Mantlo issue. Because for some reason, Bill Mantlo was always the guy who took over when John Byrne left. I don't know if he always had an open schedule, if you could just call Bill and say, we need an issue of Alpha Flight. But for whatever reason, I'd be reading my John Byrne series, and I'd be loving my John Byrne series, and I'd be waiting for that next issue, and I'd pick up the next issue. Bill Mantlo.
Wah, wah.
And Bill's great, like I say, don't get me wrong. But you love John Byrne, and then John Byrne goes to DC, and now somebody else is doing Fantastic Four. Now Tom DeFalco is writing Thor. What? So, like I say, whatever it is you're loving about comics, love it in the moment and cherish it because it will go away. It will end. Hush will end. Watchmen will end. Your favorite thing will end. Your favorite artist will get a better job. That's comics.
The key to that, Daniel, is to find something else next that you love equally or even more that you can kind of grab onto.
That's
It's like having a bad breakup. It's like just rebound.
That's a great way to put it, actually. That's a great way to put it.
You're only 25.
What are you talking
nice. Old man, come on, Mark. You're like 25. That's sweet. Someone's looking for a big discount.
I was 25 once, 25 years ago.
Pretty Deadly. Yeah, Pretty Deadly's been over for a while, though, I think, Emo. That was a good book to get into for Image. And then I have that feeling
Kelly
about
Sue DeConnick,
heck. Or September. Yes.
You didn't tell me about that.
No, we don't have a 2:30.
Black. Thought I was missing a pickup. Yeah, so like I say, Daniel, that's kind of tough. And honestly, I have that sort of beef with books on hiatus and different things. It's tough when you're loving something and you know it either ends and they don't make another one or however it is. But like I say, that's just kind of comics. Again, another reason to check out first issues of things, to try events, to try new publishers. I was going to chime in super fast just because this week we got a new first issue of a Straczynski book from AWA. We got a new first issue from Aftershock called Scout's Honor. Like I say, it's in comics, you know, there's always something new, something different to fill that gap. For, like I say, in my personal case, Bendis is leaving Superman. I'll keep reading Superman, but you know, now I'm on the lookout for my new favorite thing, and that's just how comics goes. So as we begin to wrap up, I want to mention one more quick thing, and that is this guy. This is the facsimile edition of Cap 117. Come on, Kazi, you know this. That's the first appearance of the Falcon. I like to talk up the many different programs that Marvel has for reprints. They do their $1 thing, the True Believers. They do facsimiles like this. What's a facsimile? It means they include the original ads and the original letters pages, and it is exactly as the original book was produced back in the day, and it's super fun to see the original ads and to read the letters pages and all that kind of thing. But particularly they do the facsimiles for key books that are super expensive to buy in their original form. This is the first appearance of the Falcon, so get ready for Falcon and Winter Soldier by reading some Captain America facsimile. The other thing is their Marvel Tales book. I don't have one handy to show you, but they do these big chunky reprints in Marvel Tales for like $7.99. This week has 3 issues of Amazing Spider-Man, has Secret Wars number 8, the first appearance of the suit, the black suit, and a Cool Venom issue, which gets back to everything that we're always talking about. I know, you know, reprints are not collectible and reprints are not resellable, but they're fun to read. Facsimiles are fun to read, and those Marvel Tales reprints show you all the things from all the eras. Those $1 books, they reprint things that you don't always collect it in trade paperback. And it's just fun to see. It's fun to see when you read this book, you understand. We were talking about the value of things, why books go up in value, because of first appearances, because of artists, because of different things. When you read the reprints, you see why people want them. You see what makes those old books great, and that's just tons of fun. So look out for those facsimiles. Look out for those $1 reprints. Look out for those Marvel Tales collections, because they're tons and tons of fun. Today was just... Thank you, Michael. Michael is passing on some kudos to our show here, and I appreciate that. This is our first show of the new year, and so we're jazzed about this. You know, we do this for you guys. We do it because it's fun. We do everything because it's fun. But we do it for you guys. We appreciate your interaction. We appreciate the questions and comments. We're here to recreate a little bit of that hanging out in the comic shop feeling. We're not open to the public. Everything's online at black-cat-comics.com. Everybody's been super cool about getting on board with the program and doing their pickups and getting their stuff shipped, all that kind of thing. And I will never be able to express how grateful I am to all of you for keeping us going through all this. But we did this show, like I say, in lieu of everybody showing up on Wednesday and hanging out at the counter when they pick up their books. We can all hang out like this and talk about our books and talk about our favorite stuff. So thank you, Michael, for joining us. Thank you, all of you, for joining us. Thanks for your participation. You guys make it fun. You make it exciting. You make it interesting. Black Man says, I'm surprised DC doesn't do a facsimile of Detective 27 or Action 1. They did one for Action 1 back in the 80s that actually fetches a couple of dollars if you can find one. But it's true. DC sort of got away from the facsimile thing for some reason. At least they haven't been doing it very much. But I think it's a whole lot of fun, and I know a lot of fans do. Same with, they still do their $1 thing, which is awesome. And I kind of wish DC would do something like the Marvel Tales thing with like 4 or 5 classic reprints, because, of course, they have 50 years, 80 years of comics to do that from. So that about answers folks' questions and about wraps us up. Do you have any concluding thoughts for the folks at home?
Question. We're thinking about doing this monthly instead of weekly. Your thoughts? Question. Do you like the format? Do you want us to change? Feedback? What do you guys think?
Michael already gave us some feedback.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. So yeah, it's a new year, so time to reevaluate and look at things. So what's working, what's not, including these weekly videos. I'm not going to be around the next week or two because I'm teaching, so Kazi will either be not here or solo. So you let us know what you guys think about that.
And then you can, let's see, tune in Wednesday morning, watch the Wednesday morning video where I go through all the cool books that are out for the week and give you some great reasons to go to black-cat-comics.com and pick up something fun to read. Check out the newsletter where we tell you about what's going on in the shop. We give some reviews for books that are out that week, let you know what's going on in the world of comics.
Yes.
Then you pick up your books at black-cat-comics.com. Either pick them up curbside, get them shipped out to you. You read them through the week. Then you tune back in on Saturday and we talk about them, because that's what we do here at Comic Shop Talk Live.
And just a reminder, we are doing this. We started this during pandemic times because since we're closed, we wanted to have an opportunity to talk with you guys. And just like you were, when we were open, on Wednesdays, hey, Michael, you reading this? What'd you think? Hey, Francie, you reading this? What do you think? So that's what this is about. It's about not us spewing our thoughts to you, but having an interaction. What do you guys like? What do you not like? What do you think? What do you feel? Any and all things comic related. That's what we're here to talk about. And it's interactive. So we're here for you guys. We're not here for us, though it is fun. We are here for you. So give us your feedback and let us know what you'd like to see in the future. Action Jackson. So until next time, stay safe. Please. Have fun. Wear your mask. And keep up enjoying your comics. Be a superhero in your community. Get out there and save the world. Till next time, thanks for watching. Bye, guys. Thanks.